Welcome to the Shrink Down. Ladies, how are we doing today?
Good.
For you.
Good. I should say I am feeling a little overwhelmed with the news that's going on, and I'm still struggling to find that balance of, hearing it, watching it, and not digesting too much of it. I think the issue is what's happening currently in Chicago, and that's like my hometown.
Yeah.
And so to me, it
Mhm.
feels very personal, especially with it having to do with immigration. And my family is, I've said this before on the show, you guys know, I'm first generation here. So it just feels very heavy and a lot. And I'm just mentioning it because I know that other people are feeling that way, but I feel like it's especially for me right now, it feels very, very personal. So it's hard, but yeah, finding that balance.
Yeah, it's a it's a lot. That detention center is about 15 minutes from my house in Illinois. Yeah.
Like watching videos of places that I know, it's like Kedzie in Chicago. Oh my God, I know where that is, and it just is hitting really close to home. I mean, literally home for me. So it's just been hard. And so I just want to say that because I know that a lot of people are feeling that way. And while, this show is, we try to do this podcast so that we can talk about the full spectrum, like fun things, hard things, all the things. So I felt like it's only right to be honest and say kind of how I'm feeling. Today's topic. So we are going to be talking about motherhood, and there's so much that comes along with that. We were texting about the topic. We're going to be talking about just the pressure of the expectation that women should become mothers. And then once we are mothers, the pressures that we feel. Are we doing the right thing? Are we being good moms? Taking a step away, and how do you feel about, your time away from your children? So we're going to talk about all the different aspects of motherhood today. But before we get into today's topic, we're going to do our 4-minute faves. Let's see. Terry, do you want to start us off today?
Sure. My pick just happens to line up with today's topic. It was not intentional. I don't want to add to the weight and pressure of parenting and being a good mom. It is a book called Autonomy Supportive Parenting, Reduce Parental Burnout and Raise Competent, Confident Children. It's by Dr. Emily Edlin, who is a fellow clinical psychologist, a Loyola graduate, and who lives in my town of Oak Park.
I was like, you know her, right? Because you've recommended her.
I know her.
Great.
Yes. So I know her personally. She's actually sharing my little office in Oak Park one day a week. She's subletting. And
nice.
she does talks at schools, and she came to my kids' school last week or 2 weeks ago to give a parent talk about this exact topic. And truth be told, I finally dove into the book because I knew she was coming to speak at my kids' school, and I was going to introduce her for the talk. And
it's often a good little push.
Yes, that was my push. And another confession, I have been selecting chapters that feel most applicable for my stage of life. For example, the first one, the first one I read was homework and how to tackle homework and homework strategies. I would just be thrilled if my kids, as not right now, but as they age, and I'm thinking more ahead to high school, were relatively autonomous and independent as things ramp up with lengthy papers, projects. I just see what my clients and teenagers I evaluate have on their plate in terms of workload, and autonomy is going to be critical when they are high schoolers and college students. So if there are foundational skills that I could work on now with my kids when they're in 5th grade, 3rd grade, more so my 5th grader, I really thought this would be a wise choice. Lisa D'Amour, one of our faves, did a little forward, like her quote is on the top. Emily is a lovely person. If anyone is looking for someone to give a talk, I'm sure she does virtual talks too. And then just in the Chicagoland area, she has spoken at a lot of elementary and high schools. But the book is really readable. Again, you can look at the table of contents and just select by chapter what topic you want to focus on.
That type of book.
She is a parent of 3 kids herself, so she knows what she's talking about. She has a very busy career and has 3 kids, so she's in the trenches with us. This isn't just her, writing about theories, but all of her suggestions are grounded in empirical research. So it's very research-based, very parent friendly too, very realistic about the world of travel sports we all live in, and video games and technology and cell phones and just the culture that we're currently
Landscape.
raising kids in. It's very timely. It's a good.
Well, maybe she can join us.
I had
that'd
that
be great.
same. I had
That would
that
be
same
awesome.
thought talking about kids
That would
and
be
being
fun.
independent. So yeah,
Come chat with us.
stay tuned. Yeah. How about you, Lauren?
So I am going to recommend something that I thought Wilhelmina recommended last year, and we must have been talking offline about it because it's not on Wilhelmina's Faves page on our little Instagram page. So actually Wednesday, which I know we've talked about, and we may have
about it, but none of us
mentioned on
made it.
here.
Yeah, we did.
But the
Yeah.
reason I'm recommending it is because we just finished season 2. It is so enjoyable. And what did you watch it?
Yeah, because I think we brought it up. Okay. There was some episode recently we brought it up. So we watched it. I love it.
Oh my gosh, so enjoyable. And I thought it's very easy to get through season. There's only 2 seasons, but I loved some of the supporting characters from last season getting bigger roles this season, like Catherine Zeta-Jones. I thought that was like so, like some of those supporting characters are so strong this season. Not that Jenna Ortega, I mean, she's incredible. You sort of, she does the job of an actress. You forget who she is. But it's just it's like such a fun watch, and like 'tis the season. So yes, I thought Wilhelmina recommended it last year, and I was going to mention, like, I support that recommendation. So just like a fresh recommendation. There's only 2 seasons if you haven't watched it, so it's not like you're behind.
It's so good.
It's really, really fun.
It's really good. I didn't watch it. Like, so Ev's 8, so she's too young to watch it. She's also like it's kind
there's
of
some
scary.
jump
It's a little scary. Like
jump scares.
There's nothing inappropriate. It's just scary.
Right.
So if you have a kid who's kind of scared, like that's not. You have to be a little bit older for a kid. So I watched it by myself. Yeah, and I love it. It's so good. I mean, it's a murder mystery. Is what it is.
Yep. I told Tim to download it. He's going to be traveling quite a bit coming up here, and I told him to download it for the plane, like just to watch on his own, because with his travel, it ended up being the boys and I really watching the bulk of it together. And he was like, really? And I'm like, I absolutely recommend this for you to watch on the plane. So he's going to do that this upcoming week.
My hairdresser and I were like dying talking to. He's like, Wednesday, and I'm like, oh my gosh,
so
Wednesday,
good,
it's so good.
Yeah.
Like, why are not more people talking about this? I'm like, I don't know.
I think people talked about it a lot first season. I mean, that was like, I mean,
so there was a long break. I think that's what it was,
which is why I think I didn't mention it, because I think we had already
last year
watched it all. Yeah, so
it was a while ago. There was a big break.
That makes sense.
I wouldn't have talked about it. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Okay, I actually liked. I think I liked this season, the second season better.
I liked the first season, but
did you like? I like the second season better. And then on top of like the phenomenal like actors who are in it. I mean, there's so many people from the original who are like
Christina Ricci
in different character roles, and then they even have special guests. So Lady Gaga.
I had to Google. I was like, is that Lady Gaga?
Yes.
But Steve Buscemi is in it. And we were looking up, there's like very slight little tiny references, not references specifically, but like little odes to Happy Gilmore.
Yeah,
he like holds a golf club at one point. Like there's just tiny little things, and those are both Netflix things. Yes. I don't know. It was just so fun. We had a good time with it. So yes, highly.
I don't think it's talked enough about. So I'm glad you brought that. I actually thought about doing that for a fave.
Perfect for this season. Yes.
Excellent.
You know what?
Go ahead.
Episode really highlighted the acting of Jenna Ortega and her roommate was the one. This really doesn't give anything away. Where they we were like, they both nailed each other. They switched, and so they are both like.
Well, and do you know what's very funny? Jenna Ortega was in The Family Switch. Wasn't she the? No, it wasn't her. Enid. The character in Wednesday, Enid, is the daughter in The Family Switch.
Jenna Ortega is in Day Off, Parents' Day Off.
Yes Day.
Yes Day.
No, but Enid, that actress, is in The Family Switch. So she's now had these 2 experiences of playing different people. And he's very good at it.
Very good at it. Yeah.
I actually read
a really fun one.
It is. Yeah. I read an interview. The two of them are basically talking to each other. Like they're kind of interviewing each other. And so they're talking about the episode in which they switch roles and how that was challenging for them. So it's just fascinating because Enid's character is very animated, and Wednesdays is, well, Wednesday Addams, she's not. And so they were talking about how difficult it was to kind of get out of their kind of regular character, one being so animated and the other one being so kind of stiff and almost robotic, and then how that felt to do that. So that's
interesting. Very well. Very well done. So that's that. Wilhelmina, what about you?
Okay, so I have a book. This book was given to me as a birthday gift, and I read it. My husband and I celebrated our 20-year wedding anniversary, as you guys know.
Congrats.
And we went. Thank you. We went to Savannah this last weekend. After we went there a couple of years ago on one of our trips, I loved it, and thought, hey, where can we get to? Easy to get to. Easy to get from the airport to like the place you want to be. And so we spent a couple of days there, and it was really, really fun. And I got a chance to finish a book. This is not a long book. I feel like I should brag, but it is a 167 page book. So it's not long.
Okay.
So it's called Big Fan by Alexandra Romanoff, which I believe is a pen name. Is a journalist, a culture critic, and the author of 3 novels under like a different name.
Okay.
So I had never heard of this book. I'd never heard of the publishing company. As you can see, like if you're looking at this, it's like kind of an interesting book. So it's a publishing company called 831 Stories.
Okay.
And what they are is they're a romance novel publisher. It's run by 2 women who liked romance novels, but basically was like, there's not always they were kind of like, how can we do something a little different? So they started this around COVID. The name of the publishing company is from the 90s beeper code for I love you, meaning
so we know how old they are.
831. So 8 letters, 3 words, 1 meaning is like, so, and they really are like the immersive experience of like romance fiction, which I would say I dabble in it. I have friends who dive much deeper. And of course, one of my friends who is the one who gave me this. So she was sort of like, you need something to fill the summer I turned pretty hole. And she's like, I think this is the good one. And it was so good. I mean, it was fast. It was fun. And some of the issue I have with like romance fiction is it's got to be like well written enough to not have me go like eye roll, like cringe. And it's like when they get to the sex part, I'm like, I don't need weird names and words that are going to just take me away.
Weird
adjectives. Like, I mean, all I can think is like
descriptors.
50 Shades of Grey, where it's just like, so this was a good story. I didn't want to put it down.
What's it called again?
I felt Big Fan.
Got it.
Big
fan.
I could see it as a movie. It's basically about an 35 or 37-year-old woman. She's coming off of a very, very public divorce, and she's a political, what do you call it? She helps people on campaigns, like get elected, political
strategist.
Strategist.
Yeah. So she's very very good at her job, but coming off this very public divorce where her husband cheated on her, she's just been in the news, even though she didn't do anything wrong. So she gets hired by this woman, but she's sort of like, well, I just don't want, your life to take away from the campaign, which is a little weird because it's like, she didn't do anything wrong. Her husband cheated on her. Meanwhile, she comes across this boy band man who she actually was like the head of the fan club for this sort of like Justin Timberlake. Let's just say if Justin Timberlake had been in a boy band and then left the scene and come back in his middle age to sort of be like, I think I'm going to go solo. She had a fan group for him as a teenager. So now he reaches out to her and he's like, can you be my strategic person to get me back out there because you did such a good job? They connect. Of course, they have chemistry. So it's sort of this like meeting someone who you just used to love as a kid, but now you're meeting as adults and having chemistry. It's just really good. It's like more dynamic than what I would think a normal kind of just tawdry romances. And as I said, I just couldn't put it down. It was fun. I could see it as a movie, quick read. And for anyone who likes romance, it was like not too much of anything. It was like the nice balance of story, sex, not too much. So it's not a closed door one where like a kiss and then the scene. It does show something, but it's not too much. It's great. So fun read.
Ugh, I hate when they do that in a book.
What? Oh, the closed door?
I'm like, come on.
No.
The next morning.
The next morning.
It's like, okay.
Boring.
How about you, Vanessa?
All right. Okay, so mine's more of a review, and you're going to do with my review with whatever you're going to do with my review. So I went this weekend to the album release at the movie theater of Taylor Swift's Life of a Showgirl. So my girlfriend was taking her daughter, so she asked if me and my daughter wanted to go with her. My daughter's 8.5, by the way. So we went, and I didn't really look up to see what it is. I think that there's like two Taylor Swift, like two camps of Taylor Swift people who like her music. There are like Swifties who are like diehard, follow all the Easter eggs, can't wait till her album comes out, have all the things. I am not in that camp. I'm someone who there are lots of her songs that I like. But I don't follow any of the stuff. I have no idea. So I'm not a Swiftie, but I do like some of her music. So I went because my daughter likes her as well. And I mentioned this on a previous podcast that my daughter tends to like some of her older stuff that she wrote when she was younger. And I actually prefer some of the stuff that she's released more recently. So this album release was basically just a way for them to promote this record. And so it was her talking about, the creation of the video for one of the songs. So you get to see her kind of in the process of creating this video for the song Ophelia. And then she kind of walks you through each song and explains to you what the song was about. The crowd was interesting. So we went to like a 6:00 show, and the first people who were there were there was two older women and an older man. They had to be like in their 60s or older, which I was like, oh, interesting. And it was just this like funny hodgepodge of like older people, kids who are younger than my daughter, and then like a couple of like older girls, like 10, 12 with their parents, obviously. So it's just like this hodgepodge. So it's kind of interesting. I don't think the kids really enjoyed it very much, to be honest, because it was her talking, like explaining the ideas, the concepts behind these songs. But I will say, I actually thought it was really interesting. So if for some reason it goes on TV and you're interested in learning more about her process, I think it'd be worth a watch. I don't know that you need to go to the movie theater, and I don't think it's even available. But I thought it was really interesting. She's very, very involved in the process of making this video. And then she walks through kind of the ideas about the songs, which I think it's helpful to kind of hear what she's saying about what her songs are about, because there's all these like hypotheses. People are like all these articles out now, like, oh, this is what this song's about.
This line means this, and
people are real. It's really bananas, especially if you watch this and you hear her describing what the songs are actually about. You're like, I don't know. I mean, maybe she didn't disclose that, but it seems like very far fetched. But there were a couple songs that I really like. So she's got a song called Opalite, which I thought was I actually like it just hearing it. But she describes how her and her mom collect opals, and opalites, I guess, are man-made opals, which I have no idea because I don't know anything about opals. And so this song is about creating your own happiness and how you work to find your happiness. So I thought that's an interesting kind of concept. So, I think that people who are Swifties are going to love this album. I think people who don't like her, this is not going to change your mind about her, to be honest. I don't think it's her best album. There's definitely a couple songs in there that I liked. And it was one of those things like, sometimes you read like a book series and the first book's like, okay, but you keep reading it anyway, and then it gets better. And then, or you watch a show, the first couple episodes are kind of like, meh, but you keep watching and then it actually turns out good. Like, that's how I feel about this, is that the first time I kind of listened to each song, I was kind of like, but then I've now listened to them a couple times. And you're like, oh yeah, there are a couple songs in there that I like. So it's not my favorite album of hers, but I do like some of the songs. I don't think anyone who didn't like her is going to like her now because of this. I think people who liked her, okay, you're still going to like her, okay, and all the Swifties are going to still love her. So I think it was one of those things that like she just did, and I don't think it's not changing anything for anyone. So that's my review of the Life of a Showgirl.
That's a good balanced review. Like, I feel like you're probably going to stay exactly in the lane you are already.
That's why, I was like, if you didn't like her before, you're not going to like her now. If you liked her before, it's not going to change your mind. So that's my
Is Opalite your favorite song?
I think that is, I would say that that's my favorite song. I really liked Ophelia too. That's a good one too.
I've heard that one. I like that one.
She has a song. I mean, like, again, I think I think she does well. She doesn't have the best singing voice. I think she's good. Her lyrics are good. If you listen to her, she's got, they're catchy tunes. But she's got some songs in there. She's got a song in there about, thinking back on your high school years and, the regrets that like things that you wish you had done that you should have done. Yeah. So she's got a song about that. She has a song about cancel culture, which I thought was interesting. So so I think there's some good themes there. But again, I think whatever your thoughts are on her now, whatever it may be, positive or negative, it will not change if you listen to this album.
Did you have to pay?
Yeah, but it was like, I think the tickets were like $12. Like it was nothing like crazy.
No, man, she looks for any way to make money.
She made millions.
Say what you want about her. Yeah. She's never not looking for an opportunity to make some more money.
Yeah. I think, it was $12 a piece. So it wasn't like it was anything extraordinary. It made millions. I was looking at some articles. Like she made millions nuts. This weekend.
About talking about how she made 2 songs or something. That's interesting.
Belinda Taylor.
Yeah.
All right, ladies. Thank you for sharing. So let's get into our topic today. So we're going to be talking about motherhood, like I mentioned. I think a good place to kind of start with this is that initial expectation of women becoming mothers. Like there is this expectation that that's what women will do, should do, however you want to word it. So let's start there. I do have several friends of mine, good friends of mine, and acquaintances who are married and they do not have children. Mm-hmm. Some of them because they've made that choice. They've made that very intentional choice. Some people that I know who don't have children were kind of in a situation where it just never happened and they didn't feel the need to go make something happen. And then I also know people who have tried very, very hard to have children and they have not been able to. So I think there's a wide range of why people do not have children. So what are your thoughts on this expectation that women should become mothers?
And I think I will also say it's a very heteronormative expectation. If I think about lesbian couples that I'm friends with and know and have in my orbit, that the lengths that they have to go to in order to have children are significantly different than what heterosexual couples do. Yeah. So I think, but I also think their desire to have kids is probably also there. So I think that, it's multi-layered, but I think that there definitely is an expectation in heterosexual couples that women will become mothers at some point, whether it's shortly after you get married. And then there's situations where people aren't married, but decide to go into parenthood together without being married yet or not, just being partnered. But I think it's definitely an expectation as somebody who I did not have my oldest until we were married almost 7 years. And the first couple of years we were married, I didn't want to have kids. And it was my husband who wanted to have kids. And I very much was not interested in it and then changed my mind over time. I definitely felt a significant amount of pressure the first couple of years we were married. Lots of questions from people both close to us, people distant from us. And then enough time went by. We waited long enough to have kids that the questions stopped and the pressure stopped. I think they didn't like the answers, the responses I was giving, because I didn't feel like it was much of anybody's business but our own. But there's definitely, at least me personally firsthand, definitely felt pressure and expectations to have kids.
I think that's something that's kind of come into the forefront, just given the current climate in our country, like this topic has come up, but I think that it's been there. And Terry, you're proving that by saying that this is how many years ago that people were asking you those questions. But I know several couples who got married young too, and then decided to wait for an extended period of time before. And they would say, people are always asking us when we're going to have kids. People feel that they have the right to ask you that because that is the expectation that you will become a mother. And I can just think of myself as a kid, I'll go back and read things, I'll have a journal that I read when I was a kid and I'm like, I'm going to have 2 kids, there's this, even as a young girl, you have this idea in your head already that you're going to become a mom. And
and I think that, so we waited 7 years, and also went through and had a conversation of do we want kids. I think the myth that you hit a certain point and like you automatically just want kids and it's an easy decision of like, now I want kids. Because I know Terry and I, we've talked about this, where we basically had to make have a decision of like, we do want kids. We want to have, thinking of our Thanksgiving table 20 years from now, that is what we want. We both felt that it was really hard to kind of stop, I don't know, just being like, knowing that we kind of would have to sacrifice so much to be a parent, that is a hard decision to make. And I think that doesn't come just, I think that's hard to give up. And I think that's hard to acknowledge. And I think you feel bad if you're like, not just like, I definitely am ready and I can't wait and I love it. And if you feel that you're like, I think I want this, I don't know. I think that I'd like that to be more of a normalized conversation, because I mean, I know most of the people I know who have kids have had those same thoughts of like, I mean, I think I want kids. I think so. I don't know.
Well, it's hard.
I think I was just going to say, to go back to Vanessa's initial question about that expectation, I think the expectation comes from a good place. It's coming from people that couldn't imagine their life without kids. So I don't think it's born out of a like judgmental space, but more of just it feels very natural for people to expect that of others when they've gone through that experience, as opposed, at least that's how I guess, and maybe I'm trying to see the world through a like rose-colored glasses, but like, you know, like somebody that's like, oh my gosh, you haven't, I don't know, been to Disney World with your kids yet? Like, I'm like, nope, we haven't. You know, like I don't think it's like a judgment. It's just that they've had that experience and they think it would be a wonderful experience for you to have, right? Like sometimes I do think that the pressure that we feel is, yes, it's out there in the ether and in society, but it's also self-induced.
And I would agree with that. The people who asked, maybe the only, I mean, I don't know for sure, I wasn't keeping track, but it seemed to me the majority of the people asking were parents themselves. You know, it's not your 18-year-old niece or or whatever, or coworkers who don't have kids asking if you're going to have kids. It is usually coming from people who've had that experience and are very curious. But then if you do become a parent and you have a kid, I remember having my baby, I think Danny was like 3 months old, and people start asking if you're going to have a second. And then once you have a second, they ask if you're going to have a third. And it's just, you know, do you think you'll have more? Do you think you'll keep trying? Do you want to go for a girl? Do you want to da-da-da? It just keeps going.
Yeah. I mean, I agree that probably most people are coming from like a good place, but I think there are people in this world who think that like every woman should have a baby. I mean, that's true. And if you don't, then there's something inherently wrong with you if you don't. So like, it's one thing to be like, oh, asking in a kind way, but I do think that there are people who think
you're missing out.
That's what women, that that there must be something wrong with you if you don't want to have a child. And that I don't agree with. I think there's a lot of reasons why people choose not to have children. And I think it's okay. And saying, you know, going to what you're saying, Terry, about people saying, hey, where's the next one coming? I only have one child. And I got that a lot. Now that she's older, I think people stop asking because I think they realize like, I mean,
the shop is closed.
The shop is closed. But that was a forever question that I got from people. And I would get it from strangers too, you know? And while I didn't feel offended by it, because I know why I have one child, I think that is a personal question. And I don't think that people should be feeling like, unless it's your family, like that's a different story, but like strangers, like I remember being on an elevator once, like I was at a funeral and this couple's like, when you're having your next one? And, you know, I just kind of smiled and was like, you know, do I sit here and tell this woman like, well, I had to go through IVF to have my child? Like, like, do I really have this conversation with this stranger? You know, and when I would sometimes be like, you know, fuck it, I'm going to say it. Like, well, I had to, you know, then people would get so like alarmed by the fact that I would say this. And I wasn't saying it. Like, it's true. Like, it's the truth. Like, what am I supposed to say? So I feel like as a mother, I got that a ton, and I get it less now. And that's another thing. I know lots of people who have one, and for so many different reasons. Like some have been from the get-go, I'm only having one and I'm not having any more. Some, like me, thought they would have more and they just didn't, right? There's so many reasons why people choose not to have kids or choose to have one or two or three or 12. It runs the gamut of why people make these choices.
It's such a personal thing. Yeah. Like I never ask couples now.
No,
but that came from right. So I had 2 miscarriages consecutively before I had Danny back to back. And I remember we were trying for him and it was my 3rd pregnancy. And I was like, okay, so this may or may not happen. But in that time duration, people were of course asking, oh, are you guys trying? You're going to have kids? And I had reached a point, especially if it was in a larger social setting, like a wedding or at work. And I would say, actually, I had a miscarriage. That sort of shuts people up right away. And you never know what other people are going through. And in the grand scheme of fertility, we had things very easy. So then I had Danny, no problems. Then I had Tommy. But that's not always the case. And there is such a wide gamut that people can experience. You don't know if you're going up to a couple who seems young and they don't have kids yet, and you're being curious and kind and you think best of intentions, but you're really just trying to satisfy your own curiosity, asking them a very personal, intrusive question that really does come back to health. What if somebody has a history of radiation or cancer treatment or endometriosis or has had multiple losses? I mean, you just don't even know the can of worms that you could be opening for somebody when you ask them such a personal question.
Yeah. And Terry, I was going to say the exact same thing. I do think it is, it's one of those questions similar to, my in-laws love asking my kids, like, so how's school going?
Yes.
And,
the most
you're married.
question
Okay, so are
in the
you
world
guys
for kids?
Right. And my mom loves to ask people when she starts to talk to them. She will say, tell me about your parents. Tell me about your relationship with your parents. And I know why my mom asks this question but I have told my mom, I'm like, Mom, you know that as a therapist, people have very complicated relationships with their parents.
Heavy question.
That's a heavy question.
You are asking what you think is like, you want to talk about your mom and dad because of your history, but not everyone like wants to talk about that. So I've like kind of joked with her. I'm like, Mom, you need to stop asking that question because it's a very potentially loaded question. Yes. Same thing here.
Yes.
Like, oh, when are you having kids? Are you going to have kids? Are you going to have another? All of these, it's sort of like, if you're close enough to ask, I sometimes, if I know someone and I'm like, maybe they're not like, they're kind of a fringe friend, I'll be like, if it comes up, I'll sort of be like, hey, and I'll just be like, and you may not want to talk about it. And I get that, I will cloak it in sort of a, like, I know that this is not just a simple question. Mm-hmm. So there may not be a simple answer. You may not want to talk about it, but it is not like, how's the weather? Are you having kids? Are
you
not
taking any fun trips anytime? There's a reason there is a reason why, as time goes on, I have come to realize that people asking about upcoming trips, or either it seems like a very common topic is, take any good vacations lately? Have any fun trips coming up? That is it's a bit of a socioeconomically biased question. Mm-hmm. But that being said, I've noticed that has become a very common topic when you are in adult social gatherings, because it's pretty neutral when you can ask people about a vacation.
Yeah.
Right. It's like the weather.
Yes. Yes.
What other part of...
Yeah, what were you going to say, Vanessa?
I was just going to say, the other part of motherhood that we were talking about is, once you're a mom, there's also a lot of pressure there, right? To do the right things for your child. When they do things, it's like, is this a reflection of my parenting, right? And then when we take our time away from our kids, that we are enjoying our time, does that make us bad parents? That we like those moments when we're not with them. So there's a lot there.
Yes. And I sent you guys an Instagram post earlier this summer, I think. And it was one of the mom influencers. She does a lot of funny videos. She's the one that always ends it with like, get yourself a snack,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty real.
Oh my God, she totally had
big time adulting.
She had Yes, that's it. Thank you. I should have texted you earlier because I was actually trying to find the post and I'm like, get yourself a snack, Mom.
Yeah.
So she had a post this summer and she talked about getting away on a vacation with her husband. And it was a longer trip. I think it was like a full week. And it was the first time they'd been away in, she mentions it, but it's clearly like, I don't know if it had been since they had kids, but she had a kid with like a health issue, I think leukemia. So they'd not had a lot of trips. Yeah. So she finally, after all of this time, like things were good, they were able to take this trip. And she expected to like miss her kids right away. And people were kind of like, oh, I bet it's going to be so hard. And she basically was like, it was amazing. And guess what? She was like, 2 days in, I didn't miss my kids. 3 days in, I didn't miss my kids. She basically said like by the very last day, I think it was, she was like, I was excited to like see them again and kind of re-enter that life. But she said, I don't even think I would have felt that if it hadn't been this long. She was like, if it had been a 3-day trip, a 4-day trip, she's like, I didn't feel any inkling of that until the end. She's like, I knew they were safe. We were checking in. It wasn't like, but she said, I was enjoying finding myself and of who I was before having kids. I was enjoying spending time with my husband, like as we did before we had kids. And it was like, reintroducing myself to a person that I used to like be all the time and I actually used to like kind of like. And so she was sort of like, let's talk about this dialogue that moms should feel bad if they do this and they miss their kids or they don't take trips because they feel like they're going to be bad moms. And of course, we just came back from a trip. So anyway, what are your thoughts on that, guys?
I completely agree.
I think it goes back to us as a society saying, if you're not ever present and if you don't do everything the exact right way, especially as a mom, as a mother, this is pertaining to mothers, you will F up your kids. Like you will just totally mess your kids up. It makes me think all the way back to when they thought refrigerator mothers caused autism. I mean, I remember learning that in undergrad and they're like, well, obviously these kids with autistic presentations, it must be the mom's fault because they're the primary parent.
So I wanted to, exactly what you're saying, Terry, I wanted to understand when we brought this topic up, I was like, where is this coming from? This idea that like, you're an awful person if, like you're an awful parent if. Are you guys familiar with the term intensive parenting? So it's interesting. We've heard it, like probably in our world, we've heard it maybe more. But intensive parenting, like as a term, was coined in the late 90s by Sharon Hayes. I wrote it down. Sharon Hayes wrote a book called The Cultural Contradictions of Mothering, which I just like love the name of the book. I've not read the book, but I was like, what a good title. And it was this idea that they were starting to see a shift between the middle and the upper class, and the upper class's ability to access things like strong college education. So like just really simply, there was starting to this growing gap. And so the middle class looking for a way to sort of get their kids back up to that same level. And so this idea of like, so now, of course, we've in the psychology world, there's been a lot of research on intensive parenting. It's quite a common approach to parenting in Japan. But the idea behind it is there's like this deep commitment to your child and their emotional, their emotional upbringing. There's time, there's money, there's like, it's highly intensive, expensive. But the idea like behind all of it is that it falls more on the mother than the father.
And not a lot of vacations happening when you're in
high investment on the kids,
intensive parenting,
like really, really high levels of scheduling and emotional and physical stimulation and things like that. And there's been some great things that have come out of it. One of the things that I read was that gross motor skills have improved in young children because parents are like, mothers are overwhelmingly mothers. That's just what the research is. Are signing their children up for structured physical activities at very young ages. We all we've had those kinds of conversation, and there's a lot of problems with this too, obviously. But that's like one of the findings that's like positive in quotes. I mean, but the findings that are negative, like child anxiety, parent anxiety.
I was like, how's the mom's mental health? I'd like to
correct.
How is her
Parental stress levels. Like, so I thought it was interesting. Like, okay, where did this come from? Like, why are we all feeling this way and this pressure? Has this always been this way? And I think there's always an iteration of something. So Terry mentioned the refrigerator mom, like before we understood what we understand now. But yeah, it's not that old as a concept. It was born
90s.
out of a good place, right? These middle class mothers looking to get their children the best of the best.
The edge.
But it's resulted in all of us feeling a little nutty.
And then we combine that. Sometimes I hear the phrase child-led in front of it. So you'll hear child-led intensive parenting as a parenting style.
100%.
So very involved, very hands-on, very intrusive, but also
the child's needs are more important
than mine.
Yes.
We all know that is not correct.
Or they just
Not
don't
healthy.
want to do that. So when they feel like doing that activity, then I'll sign them up. Or when they feel like doing the project, then they can start it. You know, that children have all this life experience to draw upon. So they're going to, know when to start their school project or decide which activities when they don't even know what's out there and available, but they'll let you know when they're ready to do something. And I think it makes it really difficult because parenting is not a one size fits all. And one thing that I talk about a lot when I have given talks at schools, I have this talk I've given for pediatricians' offices and schools about understanding your child's temperament. And temperament is related to personality, but temperament is what your child's natural disposition is, how they engage with the world, how they interact. And a lot of times we don't have a good temperament environment fit, meaning parenting, the way you're parenting your child doesn't fit their temperament. Parents tend to parent the child they think they have or parent the child they would like to have. Yes, or they want, as opposed to parenting the child they actually have in front of them, which takes a lot of raw, realistic approaches to being able to see your child good, bad, and ugly, and yourself good, bad, and ugly. And is my child a slow to warm? Okay, I need to understand that. And I need to parent this child that I have, as opposed to trying to force their temperament to be different with the environment that I've created.
Right. And that intensive parenting would take none of that into account.
No.
Right. So it creates this stress that you're not even aware you're putting upon yourself to put this child in this setting, this environment, and these skills and this, these activities or whatever that they might not be fit for based on their temperament. And ultimately, then it puts so much more pressure on the parent, and namely in this sort of this world, the mother, to have this perfect child. And when they're not, I think we all feel the
effects of that.
The effects of it. Yeah.
Well, and it reminds me of like fair. Like we don't do fair or we don't do even. We make sure your needs are met in terms of like with the parenting style. It's not fair. And this comes up a lot with my two kiddos where they, we say something different to them, or we give them a different privilege, or we have a different kind of like consequence for something. And that we hear that a lot. And I always use the Dr. Becky phrase, like, we make sure each of your needs are met kind of thing. And that's the same way with like this parenting. Like you can't just parent both kids the same. You have to actually say, what's going to motivate my kid? What's going to help my kid? What's going to hurt my kid? Both my kids they're very different kids. And I do struggle because I do have to kind of parent them differently. And it's not easy.
And you have to switch.
I think that one of the part of the difficulty with mom is what we're talking about, that you're figuring out how to parent your child. And then you're also managing your own stuff that's not related to your children, like your parents, your siblings, whatever family dynamics you have outside of like your immediate family, and a job, whatever you have going on with your job. And so it's all of these things that you're balancing that impact you as a mother. I mean, you can't separate these things apart. I mean, you can't, like that. All these things are taking a part of your time, your effort, your mental, load. I mean, you can't. And so it makes motherhood even more challenging when the more you have to kind of balance. And I think one of the reasons why women are feeling so much pressure is that we're balancing a lot. There's a lot of things that we're balancing at the same time, and you can't separate the mom of part of you from all these other things because they all kind of interplay with each other. And so it can feel like a lot.
Well, and I think that maternal instinct, I actually listened to a Dr. Becky podcast just recently, and she was talking about the myth of the maternal instinct. And she was saying, how often do you hear paternal instinct? You hear maternal instinct all of the time. Don't hear paternal instinct. And she said that, do mothers have an instinct for their children? Sure. Like, probably it's like, just like anything else, you get to know your kiddo and you're going to be able to differentiate that cry and things like that. But we far overestimate the idea that we give birth or have a child and then we know what the fuck to do with them. And we actually do not. And so then we're like, how else? And I loved that Dr. Becky she did like a little mini podcast, and she basically was like, can we just normalize, like, we have to ask for we have to figure out how to do this. We have to ask our friends. We have to read books. We have to like go to the experts.
Google.
Because Google. I mean, how often do we text each other? Like, okay, Griffin just did this. What do I do? What do I do?
Yeah. Like, even as psychologists, we struggle.
But can I say, yes, for sure. Because I always say this to people, like, just because I can give you advice on your child doesn't mean I can do it with my own, because emotions are involved. And But what I was going to say is, to your point, Wilhelmina, yes, we reach out, or as a result, I'm overwhelmed by the amount of information. I personally know myself well enough to know that my reach outs include my family and friends. And when I start like getting myself too deep into the internet folks and even the experts,
ChatGPT, tell me what to do.
It really can get overwhelming. And then talk about adding pressure, because if we have all this information that's available to us, then we should be the perfect mother, right?
And
like it does feel like, and then I just want to shut it all out and be like, nope, I will interact with my mother, my sisters, my friends. I don't want anybody else's information, because you do reach a point of sort of oversaturation of how to be the best parent, which I think this intensive parenting, it's just like all around us. This idea that like, because we have so much access to podcasts and books and Instagram moms and Instagram psychologists and all those kinds of things, that we should know exactly what to do with our child in that moment, all the time, every day, all day. And it becomes too much.
This might not be popular. I don't know what you guys think of this. There was a quote, a phrase that I heard when my oldest was a baby. And it's something you probably have heard this. It's something along the lines of, this is for working mothers. You have to work like you're not a mom. So when you're at work, you have to work like you're not a mom. And when you're a mom, you have to parent like you don't have a job. And I remember hearing that, and it, it was a light bulb, because I really had a rough transition back to my work environment after I had Danny for a variety of reasons. And I remember thinking, like, that is so true. When I'm at work, part of it was my boss at the time was not a parent herself. And there was the expectation that I would be at work like I didn't have a baby at home. And then when I was with him, it's like, I have to pretend I don't have a job. I just need to focus on him. He needs to be fed. I can't be checking emails. I can't be whatever. But something that I have done is, like, when I'm at work, I'm at work. If I have a few things I have to do, I really do try to compartmentalize, and it has helped me be effective. Like, I am at work. This is what I'm doing. This is my task at hand, or I'm writing a report, or I'm with this kid right now, or I'm training my students at Rush. We're in supervision. And then when I'm at home, I'm really trying to be like, okay, where my feet are, basically. I really just try to be where my feet are. So if I'm at work,
where you are,
I am at work. And if those intrusive thoughts start to bubble in about, oh, they have to do this, this, and this, I got to email the teacher back, I got to do this. Okay, I will deal with that when it's time to deal with that. Where are my feet right now? So whether that's good or bad for me, and I'm not an expert at it, and I don't do it 100% of the time, but I do try to compartmentalize. And actually, I didn't like that, but I've actually tried to live that a little bit. Like, when I'm at work, I'm not a mom. And when I'm momming, I'm not at work.
Yeah.
But
I think you can apply that to, so we go on our trips, once a year. And I know that outside of our girlfriend trips, like we all take trips like with our significant others, other friend groups, right? And it's not that I kind of do that when I'm on my trip. I'm like, this is me time right now.
Yep.
And I think that there's
although
so
we
much
all do
benefit.
have to work. All of our work always bleeds in. But besides
yeah,
that,
I mean, it does.
Yes.
I mean, but you try,
Yes.
I think the majority of the time that I'm there, I'm trying to really be mindful of
Yes.
like,
Yes.
this is my downtime. Like if I'm with my girlfriends, like this is my friend time.
Yes.
I really try to do that. And I think it's so important to have those times where you do just let it all
just like,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not disconnect, but
yeah, like you disconnect, but not, like, yes, disconnect for lack of a better word, but where you are, in that moment, really enjoying your friends or with your husband on that trip, really enjoying that, because I think that makes you a better mom.
Mhm.
I think that
100%.
having that
it
time
does.
where you can just, relax, be with your friends, enjoy your friends, or be with your husband, enjoy your husband, or whoever you're with on whatever trip, or not even a trip, going out to dinner. It could be a night out. Yeah, like dinner with your girlfriends. Like, I just think that those moments are so good for your soul. And I know whenever I come back from my trips, yes, I miss my daughter, but I feel so like like I feel so like ready to tackle, like, let's do this. Like, let's, get back into being a mom and doing all the things. And I just think that those breaks are just so important for your soul. Like if you want to, and again, if you can't go on trips, I get that. Like, again, that hour you take to go watch your show by yourself, right? Or, that night out you go and have, dinner with your girlfriend or your husband. I think that those moments are so important, so beneficial to being the best, in your role as mom. I really do.
I think it has, like, I think every mom has to think and really do some work to be like, what charges my battery?
Yeah, like whatever is for you.
And then, and like, what charges it a little bit? What charges it fully?
Yeah.
And then pay attention to that and make sure you're making time for those things. Because I definitely go through periods of time where I'm literally like, okay, I've got 1 minute. I'm charging the battery for a second. This will get me to the next thing I need to do. And that's fine for a little bit, but it is not fine long term. I mean, I feel like COVID's a good example of how like none of us
everything
were
just
battery
collapsed
charging.
and
everything was
melded.
like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Melting candles, all of us.
Yes.
And I do think, and I can feel it. I feel it on our girls' trips. I felt it this weekend where the battery that is just like who I am as a person, separate from a mom, just starts to fill up. I have different ideas and thoughts and feelings, and it makes me a better mom when I come home, because I am not just a mom. I'm all of these other aspects. But if I'm only filling the mom tank because I have to, I sort of feel a little bit wilted and just not myself. And so I think that it is figuring out what makes you feel full and whole and charged, and acknowledging that for most people, it isn't just 100% parenting. Like you're going to have to find these other things out there that's to continue to be feel like a full human.
Really understanding your values.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Remember speaking of COVID, remember we used to do the happy hours during COVID? We would get I forgot there was some, I don't know what system we used for that. I can't remember what that was.
Was it Zoom?
Probably Zoom.
No, it was some party. I can't remember what it was. We used some app, but anyway, we used to do our happy hours because we were like, we need to like reconnect with our friends because we're not seeing anybody. And that was how we did it then. So yeah, being mindful. I mean, even just like for some people, it could be going to read your book for an hour.
Going for a walk by myself without my phone, like with nothing.
Whatever.
Feels really good.
So I think that's that important to highlight. It is whatever that you need.
It can be small.
Whatever. Yeah, you can be small, and it's whatever you find. I think that's a good point, Wilhelmina, that helps recharge your battery so that you can come back and be like, okay,
and I got this. And for me, at least, it's not easy. What recharges my battery does seem to shift. It's not what recharged my battery in my 20s and my 30s is definitely not what's recharging it in my 40s. And and there's still some continuity, like getting into a really good book, like a really good fiction book. Like I don't see that ever not recharging my battery. But I do think the way I spend my free time, who I'm spending it with, what I'm doing, where my phone is, like Lauren said, I do think it changes and shifts as you go through different life phases.
Absolutely.
Even the type of book or like the type of shows, like sometimes I'm like, I can't do heavy. I need a little romance or like, I am so bored of like just easy fiction. I want like a hearty read that's going to like make me think. So like even within the context of like the things that you like, it is nuanced and you have to be aware of like what feels good in the moment or what feels good at that time. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, ladies, that was a good talk. Motherhood.
Yay.
It's wonderful, yet so complex.
Not easy. Yes.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Please join us next time on The Shrink Down.